We're in the first part of August in our area, and it's time to get that garlic out of the ground. But before we put that shovel in the ground, let's go over what I consider to be the 5 key steps in growing garlic. I've been growing garlic now about 7 to 8 years. Number 1 on the list, make sure you pick a garlic bulb that's hardy for your area. I've switched over to mostly just growing hardneck garlic varieties. Music is the variety that you see right here in front of you. Once upon a time, I planted one fall 1,000 cloves of garlic. And I made the mistake for number 2. I put the garlic in at the wrong time. I put it in about the September area, thought the ground was going to start freezing up. Well, we had about 6 weeks more of pretty nice weather. Well, all that garlic sprouted about 4 to 6 inches. I also made the mistake of number 3. I put the mulch on too early. That kept the ground warm and allowed that garlic to proceed as it naturally would. It came out of the ground. And then we had a crushing cold winter. We had no snow cover. So I had about 3 things that went against me, and we lost 95% of that garlic crop. So back to number 2, make sure you get that garlic in the ground at the right time. You've got to watch the weather. It's a little bit different every year. We freeze up typically about that first week in November, so I actually now wait until about mid-October to get my garlics in the ground. I also plant a little bit deeper, and that's why I picked this music variety. It's a bigger bulb. It's going to have more food reserves in that little clove to kick it out of the ground in the spring. And number 3, we mentioned too, mulching is important. But now what I do, I don't mulch until I've got about 1 inch of frost on top of those cloves. So it's important to mulch for the winter, but make sure you wait until the ground has cooled off sufficiently. Otherwise, by mulching too early, you might encourage that bulb to start growing. Let's go back to last year's garlic harvest, and you can take a look at some of the different mulches that we've used. What we've got here, pine straw, something we brought in from the south part of the United States where they get the long 12-inch needles. We bought a whole pallet of it, and it was expensive, but you know what? It's worked out really, really well. We've been able to reuse it at least 2 seasons where we rake it back, and then we'll pull it over again to mulch that next year's crop. The other mulch that you see here is something called Excelsior. Now this is a recycled product that was in concrete statuary. Use that for packing to avoid the breakage. It's a wood shaving byproduct. When we ran out of the pine straw, we went ahead and we switched to this. So it's worked out quite well for suppressing the weeds and keeping the moisture. You'll notice here too that we've got trickle pipe under here. It's got an emitter every 12 inches. So it's a drip irrigation system, and we haven't had to use it much. It's just incredible how much mulch will help retain that moisture. And number 4 is where we started this presentation, harvesting your garlic at the right time and looking for those signals where you're going to maximize your bulb strength, but you don't want to leave it in the ground much longer than that. What you're looking for when you want to get that garlic harvested, you want to have those first 1.5 to 2 leaves are browning up. Some other garlic growers that I know and what I read about, they look for about a 50% dieback of the leaf in general on that plant. And number 5 is getting your garlic into a shaded area where there's good ventilation. It can be pretty warm, anywhere between 70 even up to 90 degrees has worked well for me. I usually go for about a 2 to 3 week period where I let it cure, and then I'll get it into a dark, shaded, cool area. Normally we'll get storage times where we can use that garlic most of the winter. Now depending on the type of garlic that you're growing, you can get anywhere from 4, maybe up to 6 months where you can still have a really, really fresh garlic clove to use in your cooking, your canning, whatever it might be. And there's always varied opinions on whether or not you should be cutting off these scapes or seed heads earlier in the season. A lot of people say that the plant puts a lot of its energy into creating that flower, creating that seeds. You should cut it off to get more of the nutrients going to the bulb. Now I've done a few different experiments over the years where I did half and half, and I've never noticed anything where it's completely different. I have to suspect that part of the reason you may or may not notice a difference is depending on how much rain you got that year, how dry it was, how hot it was, what the nutrient level was. I'll admit, I just ran out of time this year. I kept meaning to cut some of these scapes off, actually use them, sear them and cook with them, and I just never got to it. So here we are. We'll go ahead and get them all cleaned up right before we dig our garlic. This is a tool I use every spring to break up compacted soil, but you know, it's something you can use if you want just to loosen the soil. You might even be able to just hand pull that garlic out rather than using a shovel. Look at that, we'll lift that right up. I also use this big old fork for potatoes. Works fantastic for getting them loosened out of the ground. Yeah, see what happens here. Yeah, look at that. Out she comes. Oh, you can smell the garlic. The aroma is in the air. I think we're gonna have a nice crop here. This is some pretty good size heads. That music variety gets about 5 of the bigger cloves. We'll just do a gentle rub to start. We don't want to damage that tender coating. Once it cures, it's got a lot better surface that you can kind of manhandle a little bit. But for now, we'll just take off what soil we can. That'll dry up, fall right off in a couple weeks. Yeah, look at that. What the heck do we do with all this garlic? I don't know. It seems like it sure disappears. We cook a lot with it, give a lot away, and as I mentioned, we hold back about 1/3 of it to plant, well, just in about 2 months now. I think there's about 390, maybe close to 400 plants here. 397 and 400. Oh, 401. We're all set up next to the drying tables, and we're going to lightly loosen up that soil. We don't want to damage that outer coating. Got the table pretty much filled up. This is the first time that we've used this method for drying. We've normally done a process where we tie them up in the bundles and you hang them in an area where they can get some air movement in the shade. But this has been much quicker process. We don't have to take the time to tie the bundles, hang them, get the knots right. And I think the main objective and goal for drying garlic is that shaded, warm area and good air movement. And after the 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to notice we've got those leaves have all dried up. We're going to go ahead and we'll take our garlic. We're going to cut off that stem about 1 inch above the head. And then we'll do one final cleaning, brushing off that dirt. We'll grab our scissors and we're going to cut off the roots about 1/4 inch above the bottom of the bulb. Make sure we don't damage any of those cloves. And there you go, a nice beautiful white head of garlic. And we'll get that into a cooler area now where it's completely dark at about 65 degrees for the summer, and then it drops down to about 55 degrees where we store our garlic. So in summary, just make sure you buy good hardy bulbs, get them in the ground at the right time for your area. Get that mulch on before winter. That's going to help protect those bulbs. Harvest at the right time of the year and get them into that curing area, and you'll have garlic. You can't believe how fresh it is when you grow it yourself. Thanks for watching Garden Hike. I appreciate it. We'll see you again next video.